The Semitic language family includes dozens of distinct languages and modern dialects, but a few stand out in terms of their prominence. These include Arabic, Amharic, spoken in Ethiopia, Tigrinya, spoken in Ethiopia and Eritrea, Hebrew, Tigray, spoken in Sudan, Aramaic, spoken across parts of Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Iraq, and Iran, and Maltese. Among these, Arabic is by far the most widely spoken, with about 300 million native speakers across North Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. Despite the vast range of dialects, each with its own grammatical structures, pronunciation patterns, and vocabulary, all varieties of Arabic are still considered one language. This is largely due to the presence of modern Standard Arabic, a unifying register taught in schools and used in formal settings. Educated Arabic speakers can typically switch between their local dialect and this standardized version, maintaining mutual intelligibility across the Arab world. Hebrew, while spoken by far fewer people, is arguably the second most widely recognized Semitic language. It has around 5 million native speakers and about 4 million who use it as a second language. What makes Hebrew notable is that it is one of the few languages in the world to have been successfully revived after falling out of everyday use. Today, it thrives as a spoken, written, and liturgical language. The close relationship among Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic has been recognized since medieval times. Western European scholars, familiar with these languages through biblical studies and historical interactions with the Near East, also noticed these similarities early on. In 1538, Guillaume Postel published a comparative analysis of Hebrew, Arabic, and Aramaic in Latin, marking one of the first scholarly works to highlight their connections. Nearly 2 centuries later, Hyob Ludolf further described these similarities and even extended the comparison to include the Ethio-Semitic languages. However, at that point, neither scholar used the term Semitic to define this group. The term Semitic itself was first introduced by members of the Göttingen School of History. In 1781, August Ludwig von Schlosser suggested this term to describe languages closely related to Arabic, Aramaic, and Hebrew. The name was chosen based on Shem, one of Noah's 3 sons, as mentioned in the genealogical passages of the biblical book of Genesis. In 1795, Eichhorn formally published a paper titled Semitische Sprachen, Semitic Languages, which helped solidify and popularize the term in modern scholarship. Since then, Semitic has been the standard designation used in linguistic studies. The ancient Semitic-speaking peoples, often called Proto-Semitic people, spread widely across the ancient Near East and North Africa. They occupied regions such as the Levant, Mesopotamia, Anatolia, the Arabian Peninsula, and Carthage from the 3rd millennium BC through the end of antiquity. Some groups, like the Arabs, Arameans, Assyrians, Jews, Mandaeans, and Samaritans, have maintained a continuous presence into the modern era. Their languages are usually grouped into 3 branches: East, Central, and South Semitic. Proto-Semitic is believed to have been spoken in Western Asia as early as the early 4th millennium BC. The earliest written evidence of Semitic languages dates back to the early to mid-3rd millennium BC, during the early Bronze Age in areas like Mesopotamia, the northwestern Levant, and southeastern Anatolia. East Semitic languages were spoken by peoples of the Akkadian Empire, Ebla, Assyria, and Babylonia. Over time, the Assyrians and Mandaeans continued to speak dialects influenced by Akkadian and East Aramaic. Central Semitic includes Northwest Semitic languages as well as Arabic. The Northwest Semitic speakers comprised the Canaanites, which included Phoenicians, Punics, Amorites, Edomites, Moabites, and Hebrews, along with the Arameans and Ugarites. South Semitic speakers are associated with modern South Arabian and Ethiopian Semitic languages. Scholars have debated several possible homelands for the earliest Semitic-speaking peoples. Proposed locations include Mesopotamia, the Levant, the Eastern Mediterranean, Eritrea and Ethiopia, the Arabian Peninsula, and North Africa. A widely accepted view suggests that Semitic languages originated in the Levant around 3800 BC. From there, they spread southward into the Horn of Africa around 800 BC via migrations from the southern Arabian Peninsula. Semitic languages also reached North Africa and parts of southern Spain through Phoenician colonization, such as the founding of Carthage in the 9th century BC and Cadiz in the 10th century BC. Some theories propose that Semitic languages arrived in the Horn of Africa even earlier, between 1300 and 1000 BC. Many scholars think that Proto-Semitic developed from an earlier language spoken in North Africa, possibly in the southeastern Sahara. The spread of desertification might have driven groups to migrate southeast into Eritrea and Ethiopia, while others moved northwest into Canaan, Syria, and Mesopotamia. Semitic languages belong to the larger Afro-Asiatic family, most branches of which originated in North Africa or the Maghreb. Because of this, some researchers believe that Proto-Semitic speakers may have moved into the Middle East from North Africa in the late Neolithic, possibly as part of the Saharan pump phenomenon. Others think that Semitic languages could have originated between the Nile Delta and Canaan, acting as the northernmost branch of Afro-Asiatic. There is also a suggestion that the unique Garage languages in Ethiopia indicate an early presence there, followed by a later return migration. The precise origin of Proto-Semitic is still debated, largely because scholars disagree on the original homelands of other Afro-Asiatic language families. Some linguists argue for a connection between modern Semitic-speaking populations in the Levant and the ancient Natufian culture based on archaeological and anthropological evidence. Proto-Semitic likely spread to the Arabian Peninsula by the 4th millennium BC. By the late 4th millennium BC, Akkadian-speaking groups, including Assyrians and Babylonians, began to enter Mesopotamia from the deserts to the west. Akkadian personal names start to appear in Mesopotamian records from the late 29th century BC, marking their presence. The earliest definite historical evidence of Semitic people in Mesopotamia dates to the 30th century BC. These groups settled among the original Sumerian inhabitants, who spoke a language isolate unrelated to Semitic. Between the 30th and 20th centuries BC, Semitic languages spread widely across the ancient Near East. They were spoken and recorded in regions such as the Levant, Mesopotamia, Anatolia, Arabia, and the Sinai Peninsula. The first written evidence comes from the Fertile Crescent, particularly Mesopotamia, around the 30th century BC. Later evidence appears in the Levant, Sinai, southern and eastern Anatolia, and the northeast Arabian Peninsula. During this period, there is no clear archaeological or written evidence of Semitic languages in North Africa, the Horn of Africa, Malta, or the Caucasus. The earliest known Akkadian inscription was found on a bowl at Ur, dedicated to a pre-Sargonic king by his queen, thought to be from Akkad. Some names listed on the Sumerian king list suggest a Semitic presence as early as the 30th or 29th centuries BC. By the mid-3rd millennium BC, many Mesopotamian states and cities were ruled by Akkadian-speaking Semites, including Assyria, Eshnunna, Kish, Isin, Ur, Uruk, and others. Even southern areas like Dilmun show evidence of Semitic influence. During this time, the Eblates of northern Syria founded Ebla, using a language closely related to Akkadian. The Akkadians, Assyrians, Babylonians, and Eblates were among the first Semitic peoples to adopt writing, using the cuneiform script developed by the Sumerians. The earliest Akkadian texts date from around 2800 BC, and Akkadian inscriptions continued until the late 1st century AD. Cuneiform lasted into the 2nd century AD. Elements of Akkadian survive today in the East Aramaic dialects spoken by Assyrians. By the late 3rd millennium BC, East Semitic languages like Akkadian and Eblate dominated Mesopotamia and northeastern Syria. Meanwhile, West Semitic languages, including Amorite, Canaanite, and Ugaritic, were probably spoken from Syria down into Arabia. Ancient South Arabian, although data is sparse, is usually classified as South Semitic. Akkadian, which became the dominant literary language of the Fertile Crescent, was used widely beyond its homeland during the Old Assyrian, Babylonian, and Middle Assyrian periods. Amorite survives only through names in Mesopotamian records, and Eblate disappeared along with the city of Ebla. In the 2nd millennium BC, we see more evidence thanks to the Proto-Semitic script derived from Egyptian hieroglyphs. By around 1500 BC, Proto-Canaanite texts provide the first clear examples of West Semitic languages. Ugaritic tablets from northern Syria appear around 1300 BC. Around this time, nomadic Arameans and Suteans began to appear, followed later by Chaldeans. Akkadian continued to thrive, splitting into Babylonian and Assyrian dialects. The earliest references to West Semitic-speaking peoples in Mesopotamian texts describe the Amorites in the 24th century BC. Mesopotamians often depicted them as uncivilized nomads, but the Amorites eventually overran southern Mesopotamia and founded Babylon in 1894 BC. They adopted Akkadian language and culture, blending with local populations. Babylon rose to prominence, overshadowing Nippur as the major religious center in southern Mesopotamia, while northern Mesopotamia had already become Assyria. After the First Babylonian Empire fell, the Sealand dynasty emerged in the far south, remaining independent for about 300 years. Proto-Canaanite texts and Ugaritic tablets document the rise of Canaanite languages during this period. The Arameans, appearing in the late 14th century BC, established various states in what is now Syria, pushing aside earlier Amorite populations. From the 13th to 11th centuries BC, smaller Canaanite-speaking states emerged in southern Canaan, in areas corresponding to modern Israel, Jordan, Palestine, and the Sinai. The Philistines, arriving in the 12th century BC, are thought to have been part of the Sea Peoples and possibly spoke an Indo-European language, though details remain uncertain. Around the 19th century BC, some Canaanite speakers entered Egypt and later founded the Hyksos dynasty in the 17th century BC. They introduced new military technologies, including the war chariot. Egyptians, who spoke an Afroasiatic language, were likely linguistically related to Semitic and Berber groups. Other Afroasiatic-speaking peoples, like the ancient Libyans and groups in Punt and northern Sudan, also occupied regions nearby. In the first millennium BC, alphabetic scripts spread widely, offering new glimpses into the evolution of Semitic languages such as Canaanite, Aramaic, Old South Arabian, and early Ge'ez. During this time, the case system once evident in Ugaritic began to deteriorate in Northwest Semitic languages. Meanwhile, the Phoenicians, a Canaanite group, extended their influence across the Mediterranean, spreading their language and culture through colonies such as Carthage. Hebrew, closely related to Phoenician, became the foundation for a major religious literature, including the Torah and the Tanakh. But in an ironic twist of history, it was not Hebrew or Phoenician, but Aramaic that emerged as the dominant language in the region. This rise was largely due to the expansion of the Assyrian Empire, which adopted Aramaic as a lingua franca, gradually leading to the decline of Akkadian, Hebrew, Phoenician, Canaanite, and other Semitic languages in daily use. Despite this, Hebrew and Akkadian survived in religious and scholarly contexts. By the 9th century BC, inscriptions in Ge'ez, written with the South Arabian alphabet, appeared in the kingdom of Dem in the Horn of Africa. This marked the beginning of recorded Ethiopian Semitic languages. During the Middle Assyrian period, 1366 to 1020 BC, and especially the Neo-Assyrian Empire, 911 to 605 BC, much of the Near East, Anatolia, the Caucasus, Egypt, parts of Iran, and North Africa fell under Assyrian control. In the 8th century BC, Tiglath-Pileser III formally instituted Aramaic as the empire's official administrative language. This decision secured Aramaic's role as the dominant tongue of the region for centuries. It remained widely spoken until the early Middle Ages and continues to survive today in the speech of Assyrians and Mandaeans. The Syriac language and script, a dialect of Eastern Aramaic, emerged in Achaemenid Assyria around the 5th century BC. It later played a key role in the spread of Christianity and Gnosticism throughout the Near East. The Phoenicians, beginning in the 13th century BC, founded major city-states such as Tyre, Sidon, Byblos, Berytus, Beirut, and Arwad along the coasts of Syria, Lebanon, and southwest Turkey. Their maritime expansion reached as far as Malta, Sicily, Sardinia, and the Iberian Peninsula. They also established Carthage in North Africa in the 9th century BC. The Phoenician alphabet, developed in the 12th century BC, eventually replaced cuneiform and served as the foundation for several later scripts. By the mid-9th century BC, Assyrian records mentioned both Chaldeans and Arabs. Phoenician, with its compact and efficient script, became a widely used writing system across the Mediterranean. The Aramaic script, a modification of Phoenician, later became the basis for modern Hebrew, Syriac, and Arabic scripts. In turn, the Greek alphabet and its descendants, such as Latin, Cyrillic, and Coptic, evolved from Phoenician. Other regional scripts, including Old Italic, Anatolian, Armenian, Georgian, and Paleo-Hispanic, also trace their origins to Phoenician writing. Semitic-speaking states also existed in parts of the Arabian Peninsula mentioned in Akkadian and Assyrian records. These include Maluha and Dilmun in modern Bahrain. In southern Arabia, South Semitic states like Sheba, Saba, Magan, and Ubar developed, although their histories remain partially undocumented due to a lack of native writing systems at the time. Written records of Old South Arabian and Ge'ez, related but distinct from Arabic, began to appear in the 8th century BC in Sheba and surrounding regions. These South Arabian scripts and languages later spread into Ethiopia and Eritrea, giving rise to the Ethiopian Semitic languages through contact with pre-existing Cushitic-speaking populations. After the fall of the Neo-Assyrian Empire between 615 and 599 BC and the short-lived Neo-Babylonian Empire 615 to 539 BC, Semitic-speaking peoples lost political control of the Near East to the Persian Achaemenid Empire. Although the Persians were Indo-European speakers, they had lived under Assyrian dominance for centuries and kept Imperial Aramaic as the administrative language of their own empire. Many Semitic nations, like Assyria, Babylonia, Israel, Judah, Aramea, Canaan, and Phoenicia, continued to exist as satrapies under Persian rule, maintaining a degree of cultural identity. In Assyria, known under Persian rule as Athura, Imperial Aramaic further developed during the 5th century BC. But with Alexander the Great's conquest of the Achaemenid Empire in 332 BC and the rise of the Seleucid Empire, Greek replaced Aramaic as the official language. Nevertheless, Semitic peoples continued to speak Aramaic widely in daily life. Over time, Akkadian and the Canaanite languages, including Hebrew, Phoenician, and others, steadily declined. From the 8th century BC onward, Aramaic spread and replaced them as a spoken language. By the early 1st millennium AD, Akkadian had largely disappeared, although it persisted in isolated religious or scholarly contexts in Assyria and Babylonia into the 1st and 3rd centuries AD. Phoenician names still appeared in inscriptions until the 3rd century AD, and coins from Phoenician cities continued to use Phoenician letters for designations. Historical accounts suggest that the Punic dialect of Phoenician persisted in North Africa, particularly in Carthage, until at least the 4th century AD. Late Eastern Aramaic remained the dominant spoken language across large parts of Iraq, Syria, Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, and surrounding areas, even under new political regimes. It became the main vehicle for spreading Syriac Christianity throughout the Near East. In Mesopotamia, Aramaic dialects thrived in Assyristan and Neo-Assyrian states like Adiabene, Osroene, and Hatra between the 2nd century BC and the 3rd century AD. In Palmyra, the Aramean state and the Palmyrene Empire also used Aramaic. Aramaic dialects remained widely spoken throughout regions that today include Iraq, Syria, Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, the Palestinian territories, Kuwait, southeastern Turkey, parts of northwestern Iran, and the northern Arabian Peninsula up until the Arab-Islamic conquests of the 7th century AD. With these conquests, Arabic gradually replaced Aramaic through a long process of Arabization and Islamization, which involved the arrival of large numbers of Muslim Arabs from the Arabian Peninsula. Despite this, Syriac language and literature continued to influence Arabic into the Middle Ages. A number of Eastern Aramaic languages survive today. They are still spoken by the Assyrians in northern Iraq, southeast Turkey, northeast Syria, and northwest Iran, as well as by the Mandeans of Iraq and Iran, with estimates ranging from 575,000 to 1 million speakers. In contrast, Western Aramaic languages are now nearly extinct, surviving only among a small number of speakers in and around Ma'lula in western Syria. Hebrew, meanwhile, persisted as a liturgical and scholarly language within Judaism before it was revived as a spoken language in the 19th century. Although Arabic originated in the Arabian Peninsula, it first appears in written form between the 1st and 4th centuries AD in the southern Levant. During the 7th and 8th centuries, as the Arab Empire expanded, Classical Arabic spread throughout the Near East and North Africa. This process involved the movement of Arab tribes and was reinforced by later waves of Iranian and Turkic Muslim populations. Over time, the once dominant Aramaic dialects declined. Still, descendant Eastern Aramaic dialects, including Suret, Assyrian and Chaldean varieties, Turoyo, and Mandaic, survive today among certain communities. Syriac remains an official language in Iraq, and Mesopotamian Arabic retains heavy influence from Syriac. Western Aramaic, however, is now spoken only by a few thousand Christian and Muslim Arameans in western Syria. Arabic spread beyond the Near East to North Africa, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, northern Sudan, and Mauritania, where it replaced languages like Coptic and many Berber tongues. In Iberia, Arabic also took hold in parts of modern Spain, Portugal, and Gibraltar, as well as in Malta. Supported by caliphal patronage and its religious significance, Arabic became one of the world's major literary languages. Its spoken spread among the local populations was gradual and sometimes incomplete. As Bedouin tribes settled throughout newly conquered lands, Arabic gradually replaced other local languages in regions such as Yemen, the Fertile Crescent, Egypt, and most of the Maghreb, particularly after the Banu Hilal migrations in the 11th century. In Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain, Arabic became a common native language, and after the fall of the Nubian kingdom of Dongola in the 14th century, Arabic expanded south into Sudan and later into Mauritania through the Beni Hassan tribes. Meanwhile, Semitic languages that arrived from southern Arabia in the 8th century BC continued evolving in Ethiopia and Eritrea. Influenced by Cushitic languages already present, they branched into distinct languages, including Amharic and Tigrinya. With the rise of the Solomonic dynasty, Amharic spread across Ethiopia, gradually replacing older Semitic languages like Gafat and non-Semitic ones like Weto. Ge'ez remained the liturgical language of the region's Christians, while Amharic took over as the main spoken and written language. Today, Arabic is the native language for majorities in a vast region stretching from Mauritania in the west to Oman in the east, and from Iraq down to Sudan in the south. Classical Arabic, the language of the Quran, holds special religious significance and is studied by Muslims worldwide, even in non-Arabic speaking regions. Maltese is a unique case among Semitic languages. Descended from Siculo-Arabic, a form of Maghrebi Arabic once spoken in Sicily, Maltese is written using the Latin script with added diacritics and digraphs. It stands as the only Semitic language that is an official language of the European Union. Some Semitic languages remain influential as second languages, far beyond their number of native speakers. They are central to sacred literature in major world religions. Arabic is the language of Islam. Hebrew and Aramaic are used in Judaism. Classical Syriac serves as the liturgical language for Syriac Christian churches, and G is used in Ethiopian and Eritrean Orthodox Christianity. In Yemen and Oman, a few tribes continue to speak modern South Arabian languages such as Mari and Sokotri. These languages differ significantly from Arabic and from the old South Arabian languages recorded in ancient inscriptions. In Ethiopia and Eritrea, which are historically linked to the South Arabian linguistic homeland, several Semitic languages thrive. Amharic is the most widely spoken and is the official language of Ethiopia. Tigrinya is a working language in Eritrea and is also spoken in northern Ethiopia. Tigray is spoken by over 1 million people in Eritrea and parts of eastern Sudan. How similar are the languages in this family? When we look at Semitic languages, it might be tempting to think that learning one would make it easy to understand all the others. While it's true that these languages share many features and a common ancestral root, the reality is more complex. A major difference lies in their writing systems. Arabic uses its own Arabic alphabet, written from right to left. Amharic, Tigrinya, and Tigray all use the Ge'ez script, which is a syllabary and written from left to right. Hebrew uses the Hebrew alphabet, also right to left. Maltese, meanwhile, uses the Roman Latin alphabet, written left to right, and even includes special letters with diacritics. When it comes to spoken language, the common ancestry of Semitic languages becomes more noticeable. Words often resemble each other closely. For example, the word for peace is salam in Arabic, shlam in Aramaic, shalom in Hebrew, and slim in Maltese. The word for house also shows strong similarities. Beit in Arabic, in Aramaic, bayi in Hebrew, and beit in Maltese. But can speakers of different Semitic languages understand each other? The answer is no, at least not easily. Although they share many similar words, they also have many differences, both in vocabulary and grammar. Words that look or sound alike can carry narrower or broader meanings in each language, and each language has also borrowed words from other unrelated languages over time. For example, Arabic has incorporated many terms from French, Turkish, and Persian. A useful comparison is to look at English and German. While these two languages share many similar words and a common Germanic ancestry, an English speaker and a German speaker cannot simply talk to each other in their own languages and fully understand each other. Likewise, Semitic languages are connected but not mutually intelligible.